Hi there, I'm Angela. Welcome to Just Me and My Fabric and another episode of Friday Sews. Stay tuned. Hi, my sewing friends. This is Friday Sews, where we talk about projects we've been working on and life in general. I've had a pretty good week here. How has your guys' week been? In the sewing world, I did finish my turtleneck. This is Butterick 3199. I'll put a link to that pattern review and a reveal in case you are interested in seeing that. And then I've also started on my second March make. Hang on, I'll show you what that is. I'm making McCall's M7999. That's right. Yeah. I'm doing kind of a hybrid, but we'll talk more about that later. I don't want to tell everything now because I will do a reveal and a pattern review of this. So stay tuned for that. And I'm making it out of this beautiful rib knit that's sort of a dusty rose mauve color. All I have done so far on that is cut the pieces out, and I think it'll be a pretty easy make. There's just 4 pieces, the front, the back, the sleeves. I am doing the full long sleeve version, and then a neckband on that. So I think that should go pretty smoothly, pretty quickly. And I wanted to say a thank you to everyone who provided some really good suggestions on how to make repairs to my turtles quilt. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that. I think that was last week's Friday Sews. I have a quilt top finish, and it's an applique quilt. And as I got to finishing up the quilt top with some hand embroidery, I noticed that there were some issues where the applique didn't get quite stitched down. And I was thinking I might have to unpick all the satin stitching around the edges of those applique pieces. And a couple of you provided some really great suggestions on how to finish the quilt top and kind of cover up those spots. So rather than unpicking the edge stitching, I could just add some embellishments to it that would kind of like hide that, but also kind of tack it down at the same time, so I wouldn't have to worry about those pieces coming detached. I thought those were great suggestions, and I'm really hoping to put that into play here as I work to make those repairs. So thank you guys for that. Excellent ideas. I hadn't even thought of that. So really, really good ideas. Also, I wanted to share with you guys a tip or something I kind of thought of. I've been saving any scraps as I cut out garments and quilts and other things, and scraps that are kind of long and strip-like. So it could be like the selvage edge of the fabric. And most commonly that's what it's been. But what I thought, like rather than toss those in the interest of reusing, reducing, and recycling, was to use those long strip pieces to tie up my vegetable plants. So hang on, I'll show you. I've kind of, sorry for the crinkling here, but I've kind of got this bag full of those strip pieces that I've been saving. So for the McCall's dress that I'm cutting out, I had this long piece here, and more commonly what I've ended up with are kind of selvage edge pieces. So rather than just toss these, what I thought these might be good for is to tie up my viney vegetable plants in the garden. So for instance, like the tomatoes, they get pretty tall, and if you don't tie them up to a stake or to like some fencing or wire caging, they just fall over. And historically, I've used either twine for that or those green Velcro strips that you can find in the garden section. They're just Velcro strips, but they make them green and market them to gardeners. You could use them for anything where you might need a Velcro strip, like tying up your computer cabling or something. But what I thought was that I could just use these fabric strips. They're just going to get tossed anyway. And oftentimes, if you use the pieces, or at least in my experience, if I use the pieces of twine or the Velcro strips, they're out in the weather from spring through fall, and they're pretty much like toast by the end of the year. And sometimes you can reuse certain pieces, but oftentimes they just end up in the trash because they've been exposed to the weather and they're breaking down anyway. So rather than make the effort and the cost to purchase those Velcro strips or twine, why not just use these fabric strips that were going to end up in the trash anyway? So yeah, I've been saving these for at least so far the things I've made this year, and I think even maybe for about the last 6 months. So I thought that was a pretty good idea, and maybe you guys will find that helpful too. On the life front, I spent my 3rd week at my new job, so I'm getting acclimated to that, and it's going really well. So far, so good. I'm really enjoying it. It's a nice change, and I'm glad that I've made that move. It's going really, really well. And it turns out that one of my new coworkers is a collage artist. I think that's really cool. I love the paper arts, and I've kind of just barely dabbled in it over the years, like mostly with scrapbooking or making greeting cards. I love people who are true paper artists and make collages and mixed media art. I had high hopes one day of really getting into mixed media art, but I've come to find out that there are only so many hours in a day. Maybe I've come more to accept that there are so many hours in a day, and you have to pick and choose where you spend your time. And my first love is fabric. Needle and thread and fabric. And if and when I have a few little pockets of time that I have to put towards some kind of paper arts, then that's great, but I just can't make that my focus. But she was showing me a couple of her pieces that she's done, and they're gorgeous. They're so like happy and colorful. I encouraged her to maybe submit those to one of those like paper art magazines. I forget, there's one magazine that I used to get occasionally. It was all about mixed media. Darn it, I can't remember the name of it. If I find it after I'm done filming this video, I'll put like a picture or at least the name of the magazine in there, where they feature mixed media and paper artists in their work. And I've like tried to encourage her to do that. She's a lot younger than I am, and I think she kind of shied away from that idea. You know how we all are, like, oh no, my stuff's not good enough or whatever. But we should give ourselves more credit. Anyway, I thought her work was gorgeous. I loved it. And anyway, I just thought I'd share that. There's so many ways that we can express ourselves with whatever medium that we like or prefer, that we're naturally drawn towards. And also, since I've talked to you guys last on Friday Sews, we've had a snow here in March. Now, we're Midwest. I'm in Ohio in the United States, so kind of middle of the country pretty much. And it's not rare that we might get a snow in March. We might get a few flurries or something like that, but we typically don't get snow that sticks. And so the snow that we had last weekend, it was just a little, about a ½ inch. And it was gone within a day or two. I mean, the very next day, most of it was gone. And then the second day after, when the sun was out, it was like completely melted. So it was kind of pretty, although the gardener in me didn't like to see that. I'm ready to like move forward with spring and let's get to getting things in the ground and things like that. But it was beautiful. And to go along with the snow, of course, we had like bitterly cold temperatures. So we ended up last weekend cooking up a big pot of chili, and we bought a big like loaf of Italian bread. We normally would make the bread, but using a bread maker, we kind of use like the bread maker. But our bread maker broke recently. I'll tell you more about that here in a second. But we made this big pot of chili and got a nice loaf of hearty bread and had some friends over last Saturday and did like a chili dinner and then played some games. So that was really fun, and kind of that cozy feeling of being with your loved ones and a good meal while there's snow on the ground and it's freezing cold. So we really had a nice time there. Anyway, back to our bread maker. We bought a bread maker. We found it at Goodwill maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, and it looked brand new. And I thought it was one of those things that sometimes people will buy an appliance such as that and use it once or twice and then they're like, oh, never touch it again after that. And bread makers, as you guys, I'm sure you know, are big. They take up a lot of space. So if you think it's not something you would ever use again, you might just donate it. And I think that's what happened in this case. So we got this pretty much brand new bread maker for $8. And we've used it so many times over the last 7 or 8 years. And actually, I say we, but my husband kind of glommed onto that, and he became like the primary bread maker in our household. He like embraced it. He used it to make all kinds of breads, cheese bread, sourdough, like all kinds of breads. He even used it to make bagels at one time. So he just did like the mixing portion in the machine itself, and then took the dough out, hand formed the actual bagels and baked them. So he totally embraced that, which I liked. That was like bonus for me. So anyway, it broke, and I think we're gonna have to like look for another one, and hopefully we'll score again with another secondhand one. Although I have to say, in the past 2 years since the pandemic, I have not really done a lot of in-person shopping. And while I love shopping at Goodwill, I've only been there 2 or 3 times in the past 2 years. And there was a time when I would be there at least once a month, just browsing, see what they have, pick up secondhand clothing that I love. And I like their mission and what they stand for. And also I love the whole idea of reusing things, less things to go into the landfill. So I might be scouring our local Goodwills for a bread maker soon. So that's kind of what we've been up to this past week. Another thing we've been doing in the evenings, and this has been for maybe the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've been watching reruns of that old TV show Columbo with Peter Falk. He found it, hubby found that. He was watching that old show Emergency from the 70s when we were like little kids. I never watched that, but I think he used to watch it when he was a kid, so it's kind of nostalgic for him. And then one of the recommendations from watching an episode of Emergency was Columbo. So we thought, let's give it a try, and I don't think either one of us had ever watched that show, like at any point in our lifetimes. So we watched an episode and we totally loved it. And since then we've been like, not binge watching it, but most nights of the week, like watching one episode, maybe 3 or 4 nights a week watching one episode. They are long episodes. I think they're like an hour and a half, maybe hour and a half to 2 hours. They're almost movie length, but they're so good. Do you guys watch that, or do you know what I'm like talking about even? And while some aspects of the show are kind of dated, like the hairstyles and the clothing and the cars that the people are driving, we have found that when you have like good writing and good acting, good storyline, it holds up. Like, it doesn't matter that like some of the visuals are a little outdated, or some of the expressions that the people use, like the phrases that they might use and the wording. Good acting and good writing like never goes out of style. So we have like thoroughly been enjoying those Columbo episodes. If you guys watched it, let me know what you think. Is it like, I think it could end up like in my top 10 or 15 like TV series of all time. Maybe I'm just kind of still like infatuated with it, like finding this old kind of treasure of a show, and I'm just still enthralled with it. But I think it's really, really good. I just totally love it. I love Peter Falk's style and the way that he portrays the Columbo character. I'm enjoying it. And what have you guys been watching? Do you have your favorite series or shows that you like to watch? I did see a trailer for a new-ish movie called Dog, and it's actually still at the theaters. And as an avid like dog person, I'd love to go see that. I don't go to the theater very often to see movies, not because of the pandemic, but just like throughout my life pretty much. It's just not something that I like enjoy a lot. I like watching movies, but usually I have a hard time sitting still that long. Once I'm in the theater and I'm engrossed in the movie, I'm fine, but like getting myself to the theater, it takes like a really large effort. So we were thinking we might go see that movie Dog this weekend. So if we do, I'll let you know how that turns out. It looks pretty good from the trailer. And I hope that you guys have found something nice and cozy to watch during these cooler evenings as we're heading into summer. Or for the Southern Hemisphere friends, you guys are heading into winter. Hopefully you found something cozy to watch and snuggle in with during the evenings. And that's about all that I have to share with you this week. And as always, I so appreciate you guys watching and commenting. That means so much to me. I'm glad you're enjoying the videos, and I love interacting with you guys in the comments. So please feel free to comment if you're so inclined. And that's about all. Until next time, thanks again for watching. Bye.